The Bethnal archives are never quiet. Not really. Even in the dead of night, with the rain drumming against the thick glass and the smell of damp earth rising from the stones, there's a certain hum to this place. Maybe it's the weight of all the stories, all the things we've kept sealed up and hidden. I suppose you could call it the heartbeat of the archives, if you're feeling poetic. Today, though, the air feels heavier than usual, a thick, stale sort of weight clinging to the corners. The walls themselves seem to be holding their breath, waiting. Hello, Edward here, Global Affairs Officer, handling the uncanny cases that don't pose an immediate threat to His Majesty's Britannia. Most of the time, that is. I've been here long enough to know when things are about to go sideways. Today is one of those days. You see, lately, we've been fielding calls from across London about what they think is a particularly nasty strain of chickenpox. These cases aren't exactly the usual itchy red spots we all know. No, this variant is lethal. People have been dying, and fast, within a few days of the first symptoms appearing. Modern medicine, antivirals, nothing seems to be working. But here's the thing. I know what we're dealing with isn't chickenpox. It's something older, something that slipped through the cracks before. It's him again, the Pox Man. Now let me give you some context. The Pox Man isn't like most of the entities we track. We're not talking about a wandering spirit or a lost soul, nor some creature that's crawled out from beneath a rock. The Pox Man is an old pestilence, a lesser demon banished from hell centuries ago, left to wander the world and spread disease wherever he's shunned. He's been around since the days of the Black Death, haunting cities and villages, taking on the form of a beggar. If you know what to look for, you might notice him. A hunched, shabby figure at the edge of the street, his clothes tattered, his skin covered in red, festering sores. People think he's just a poor soul down on his luck, and in a way, he is. But those who turn him away, who refuse him shelter or food, soon find themselves struck with something far worse than remorse. They're left with a curse, an invisible miasma that clings to their clothes, to their homes, and spreads like wildfire. The first confirmed encounter with him on record goes back to 1352, shortly after the height of the Black Death. He was spotted in a small English village that had somehow managed to avoid the plague up until then. A hunched figure appeared at the edge of the village asking for bread, shelter, anything to ease his hunger. But they turned him away. Within days, the village was struck by the plague, one of the worst outbreaks in the area. That account was buried in old parish records until the archives took hold of it, a centuries-old warning that we're still trying to learn from. Now I'd love to tell you that the Pox Man is a tale of the past, a relic we've managed to contain. But here's the truth. We've captured him twice over the years, trapped him, and locked him away. First in 1793, when the archives were just beginning to take shape. He'd been spreading a strange fever through London, a plague that left people with burning skin and filled the air with the smell of rot. The archivists back then managed to trap him in a specially prepared iron box, reinforced with salt and charms from the local priests. They thought they'd contained him for good. But without knowing his true name, his demon name, we can't hold him forever. He always slips free sooner or later. The second time was during the 1889 flu pandemic. He showed up in Whitechapel, wearing the guise of a ragged vagrant with a hacking cough. He'd ask for coins or bread, anything that would give him reason to linger. People thought he was just one of many poor souls left behind, but within days, those he encountered were fevered and bedridden. By then, the archives knew what they were dealing with. They captured him in a containment ward in the East End, locked him up in a reinforced cell, but like before, he vanished after a few years. It's the name, you see. Until we learn his true name, he'll keep slipping out of our grasp. And now he's back. But this time, he's taken on a new form, a twisted version of chickenpox that's proven resistant to all known treatments. The spots appear on the skin like regular chickenpox at first, but then they deepen, darkening to a sickly purple, festering as the fever rises. Within hours, the victim's pulse weakens, their skin takes on a waxy texture, and their eyes glaze over as if they're looking at something no one else can see. Death comes within days, sometimes hours. He's refined his curse, made it adapt to modern medicine, like he's mocking our attempts to stop him. I'll tell you how I know it's him. Last week we received a report from a hospital in East London. A nurse swore she'd seen an old man sitting by the bed of one of these new chicken pox victims, dressed in rags with open sores covering his face and hands. She'd asked him to leave, said he wasn't supposed to be there. The man gave her a look she described as hungry, spiteful, then hobbled out of the room. The patient died that night, and within days the nurse came down with the same symptoms. She's in critical condition now, and doctors don't know how much longer she has. We're not taking any chances this time. I've been preparing the containment measures, pulling out every charm, every ritual we have on file. We're consulting demonologists, historians, anyone who might have a clue about his true name. And if we don't find it, well, I'll do what I can to keep him contained as long as possible. But I'll be honest, without that name, we're playing a losing game. Now, if you ever find yourself approached by someone fitting his description, a beggar with sores, a voice like gravel, a stare that sends a chill through your bones, heed my warning. Do not engage. Don't give him food, don't offer him shelter, and for heaven's sake, don't meet his gaze. Walk away. The Pox Man feeds on rejection, on being turned away. It gives him a reason to spread his curse. If you ignore him, he may move on. But if you engage, you might as well be inviting the disease into your home. Here's how we're handling things on our end, in case it helps. First, salt barriers. Salt, especially blessed salt, disrupts demonic entities like him. Lay it around your home, your doorways, even your bed if you're feeling particularly cautious. Second, protective charms. These can be anything with personal significance, an heirloom, a cross, anything you believe has power. The Pox Man is an entity of decay. Symbols of life, health, and resilience weaken his influence. And lastly, avoid hospitals or any place where outbreaks are rampant. If he's active, he'll linger where disease spreads most easily. I'll do everything I can to lock him down again, to buy us more time. But in the end, without his name, we're fighting an uphill battle. This is the true nature of the Pox Man, a disease that can't be cured, only contained, a shadow slipping through the years, spreading pestilence wherever he's been cast out. He's more than a beggar, more than a demon. He's a reminder, lurking at the edge of society, that some horrors can never be fully eradicated. Given what we know about the Pox Man, I'd categorize him under Class 9 recurring infectious entity. This category is reserved for entities that function almost like sentient diseases, intelligent, relentless, and designed to adapt and spread, using both physical and supernatural means. The Pox Man isn't merely an infection, he's a walking plague with agency. His purpose seems to be pure, calculated contagion, each outbreak more adapted to resist whatever defenses we've developed since his last appearance. He falls somewhere between a demonic manifestation and a viral curse, an entity whose primary weapon is sickness itself. His classification as Class 9 underscores the nature of the threat, a demon of pestilence who can't simply be exorcised or avoided, but who needs active containment measures, a recurring curse rather than an isolated phenomenon. His very presence amplifies sickness, making even small illnesses lethal. Without his true name, he can't be permanently bound, so containment remains our only option. For something as relentless as him, we'd mark him with a special advisory warning, a rare label we reserve for entities whose nature requires immediate response and public caution. So stay vigilant, stay safe, and remember, not every sickness has a cure.